Hi everyone. I will briefly present some data, challenges, and solutions to build a more inclusive neuroscience community. So diversity inclusion obviously applies to any community or group that is discriminated, but it's often difficult to obtain data. So in the first step, I'm gonna share some data on gender bias, specifically neuroscience, and then I'll broaden the spectrum to present data on European research and development in general. And finally, I will present three specific items and easy to do items to increase inclusivity. So in 2018, there's an interesting study that has been published quantifying the proportion of women and men being last authors of 1,760 publications from 176 journals. And in 2009, this proportion was 70% of men and only 30% of women. So there is a huge gap. But if you look at the evolution of these numbers over time, you can see that in 2017, we reach 65 to 35%. So this is a great improvement, although there is still a lot of work to do. They also quantified the proportion of speakers at seminars, and the gap was even greater only in 2012. But the trend is, the slope is steeper, and we are getting closer to parity in 2016, although there is still a bias. And finally, they quantified the proportion of women speakers at conferences and observed a similar trend with a gap decreasing over time and hopefully soon reaching parity. So now I'm going to share some data of the She Figures report, which is work that is done since 2003 by the European Union that quantified a huge amount of data all across Europe in different countries from different stages of career and including different subfields of science. So here I'm going to present data from all sciences. And this is the quantification of women that had their PhDs in 2016. And as you can see, we are close to parity, as it is 48% of all PhDs that are women. However, if you look at the proportion of women being researchers, we are only at 33%. So we are losing 15% of women between the PhD and researcher stages of career, which is a huge loss for the community and reflecting the glass ceiling in science, which is quite low because it's the first independent position in research. So they also quantified authorships between 2013 and 17, and you can see the black line is parity. But if you think 48% of women obtained a PhD, so maybe the ratio of women to men should be at that level in authorships, but we are far from there. And we are even far from the 33% of women being researchers, as there's less women. So again, reflecting the existence of a gender bias in science publication. And this bias or this gap is even bigger when you look at the corresponding authors, when you take only the 33% of women being researcher, which would represent the proportion of women signing as last author. We are below that threshold, and the woman to men ratio only represents 0.47. So this is quite alarming, and hopefully it will get better. But if you look at the numbers from the early reports in 2003, the proportion of women getting a PhD was only 40% compared to 48 in 2018. So there was a great improvement. And this was even stronger when you look at women being researcher at a senior academic staff stage, where it was 15% in 2003 and represent 33% today. So this is promising, and if we keep this rate, we could extrapolate that maybe in 2032 we could reach this 50% of women being researchers. So now I will briefly bring some insights on how to be more inclusive. So the first factor I've seen coming up in multiple publication and events is the existence and of implicit biases and how to fight them. So the first step to fight implicit biases is to raise awareness and to be conscious of the existence of these biases. So in 2019, a very interesting study has quantified how much women a committee would recruit, and has found that if the committee was not believing gender bias exists, this committee would be biased more and recruit less women. So this was really a beautiful demonstration that being conscious and aware of the implicit bias is the key to not be biased. So everybody is biased, but if you're in a professional setting and conscious about it, you can overpass it. So another aspect is so really becoming conscious about this bias. So you can use tools. So for example, the project Implicit from researchers in Harvard is really promoting this awareness of implicit biases on different aspects against different groups. So it's an online test that everybody can take, and it also brings data to the researchers, and at the same time it helps you identify where and how much you are biased. So it can be for women and men, obviously, but also can be on sexual orientations or country of origin or religion and many other aspects. So this is a very interesting tool that we can use. And another simple thing to do is also to question biased behaviors. So if you are in a committee or just in a very casual setting or professional setting, and you see or think some words are biased, you should say something. And first, because it's very likely not intended to be offensive, and it can bring a new perspective to the person that said this word, and it also encourages other individuals to be more careful and to express and defend people that might be discriminated. So other solutions are, of course, outreach and try to promote and share role models that have high power positions. And the ALBA Network is doing a really great job interviewing and making podcasts of women at very different stages of career that can be taken as role models for young students and even younger in school. And finally, I would like to also mention education. Obviously, the earlier you are aware of these biases that they exist, the easier it is to fight them. So it's very important to carefully choose your wording, not only professionally and in professional settings, but also when you talk to kids. They really integrate this information, and that will generate these biases at the long-term perspective. So, of course, developing also their critical thinking and helping them develop tools to become aware of biases and detect them in other behaviors and their own behaviors. All right, so with that, I would like to thank you, and I'm looking forward to discuss specific points that you might have encountered during your career. And yeah, thank you very much for your attention.